Good morning, good afternoon. This is Manish Tiwari from Cloud Ascent. Welcome to a dialogue with experts, a webinar on Cloud ERP, a cornerstone of manufacturing 4.0. This webinar in the form of panel discussion is being presented by two of our eminent speakers, Alok Palsikar of Tech Mahindra and Surya Mohan Surumpadi from Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Before I start this webinar, let me give a quick introduction about Cloud Ascent. So Cloud Ascent, our focus is on accelerating cloud ERP adoption through automation and analytics. There are three products that we have, which includes a planning assessment workbench, which helps you to decide a roadmap for moving into cloud. Conversion workbench, which is a data migration platform to help you migrate your data from on-prem ERP to cloud ERP. And the third tool that we have is developer workbench, which is a feature-rich SQL editor for Oracle ERP Cloud. So as we have seen that, in last decade or so, ERP systems have really evolved from mere system engagement, system of intelligence. Today, ERP systems, they integrate many so-called emerging technologies such as AI, ML, blockchain, IoT. They also provide assistive and conversational user experience. And of course, they also have ability to handle massive sets of data. And in this context, this webinar is being, planned to look at, various use cases that can be adopted. There are various, lesson learned and the best practices, while implementing cloud ERP. And steering it towards manufacturing 4.0 transformation. First speaker with me today is Alok Palsikar. He is a Senior Vice President of Tech Mahindra in Tech Mahindra. Alok is a very well-respected manufacturing industry expert. He has spent long years in Europe, worked with a very diversified team. He has also been a great mentor to many people, including people like me. So over to you, Alok.
Yeah, thanks, Manish. Thanks for the introduction. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the topic which has been brought up today is quite relevant, and especially in the period which we are in, which is where we are recovering from the pandemic, which was probably prevalent in the last year. And some of the sectors which took a hit in this pandemic, one of them was manufacturing. And while some sectors of manufacturing recovered, when you look behind the curtain, or you peel that onion a little more, you'll realize that the sectors recovered because of specific reasons, and companies within sectors recovered because of certain specific initiatives they had taken earlier. So I'll try and focus my next 10-15 minutes of discussion on this part of the story, focusing on manufacturing and how companies recovered through the initiatives they had taken on digital transformation. So if you can go to the next slide, Manish.
Yeah, look, just a minute. There seems to be some issue. Slide is hanging. Let me quickly resolve that.
Sure. But till the slide comes up, I mean, let me just start by, giving, the manufacturing sector, I said, was, kind of, and okay, your slides have come up. So see, if you look at, in terms of what the business needs and where it is today, and I don't mean, there are always exceptions, like Dr. Reddy's lab, which is really taken very, strong steps much before this issue came up. But there are many other companies who have taken steps, and then some who have not, and they have seen the impact of that. So in today's world, we don't see digitalization as an option or whether it's a nice to have thing, but it's a absolute necessity. It's not just about producing to what I want, but how do I really look how my customer is being addressed. Sometimes it is my customer's customer as well, or how is my ecosystem, which consists of my partners, suppliers, various smaller vendors who are helping me with my product. How do I look them as a single value chain? So seamless integration of my business processes and sometimes even business processes of my partners has become an absolute necessity. On-demand manufacturing, flexible manufacturing. You saw in the pandemic, some companies were quickly able to change the product mix completely. I mean, companies which were making cars were making masks, sanitizer, your PPE kits, ventilators. I mean, that didn't happen overnight, that they were just about to, they started from scratch, but they were able to adapt their processes quickly because of some of these digitalization initiatives which were taken. And of course, in today's world, when we are looking at the whole connected enterprise or a connected ecosystem, how do I look at my processes and at my products being able to not only meet the compliance and the regulatory guidelines, but also, how do I know what fault is happening in my product, or how quickly can I correct my product design or my production issues, and you avoid a faulty product from getting into the market. So these kind of needs, but look at it where we are today. Not all systems are fully integrated, both horizontal as well as vertical. uh, ERPs by nature have, of customizations and huge upgrades, have become monoliths. A lot of nimble systems which have come up, like CRM and, customer facing systems, are today far more adaptable to the changing needs. So how do I integrate them together? Do I have a full visibility of what's happening on my shop floor versus what my market or my customers want? So this end-to-end value chain is missing. And as we saw in this pandemic, logistics, supply chain, flexibility, have really become as a top priorities. And companies which adapted to them really saw them recover fast in spite of all these all the issues. So moving to the next slide. So if you see the overall, I mean, just making a point which Manish already alluded to, that digitalization has, has become one of the inflection points in especially in manufacturing. Work from home, how much, non-essential stuff can quickly move to, work from home from a safety or from a compliance perspective. How do I have digital workflows in place? How do I have a digital workplace in, adapted to my new normal? How much of decision making processes have been, automated? So those kind of issues have today really, dominated the entire last year. And companies which adapted to them saw that, then again, I'll make the point of, making changes to their processes faster. And in this regard, let me bring this topic of cloud ERP, that if, cloud ERP has been then a backbone of this entire decision making, because in the enterprise today, and Manish, you can move to the next slide, ERP is one of the single largest source of data. It's just not only a system of record, but it's also a big generator and, store of data. So if if one has to go to make this entire chain connected and nimble, ERP is one of the prime element of it. So I'll not get into every aspect of this, but can my user experience be simplified? Can my user experience be more adapted to the change which we are having? And how do I increase the speed of my digitalization or my digital processes? Can I introduce processes which are more digital, like a customer couple of companies in India also did that they moved from selling cars from physical showrooms to virtual, on e-marketplaces. Now, how that is possible unless you have your processes tuned to that, and your production processes, especially around ERP, sales processes, logistics, and supply chain processes have to go hand in hand to make that possible. And that's the reason where, as I say, cloud ERP has been instrumental in bringing this together. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is my favorite slide, and I look at this pyramid. All of us have seen this automation pyramid in various other. It's been there for the last 2 decades, as I see. But one of the McKinsey survey which came up about a month back and saw which companies were really doing well in this post-pandemic world, and companies which went digital were showing better resilience and very better performance across various sectors, and I'm talking from a manufacturing perspective. So if you look at this pyramid, I mean, it's quite logical in that sense. So one side you have your factory systems, factory IT, which we call it, or OT systems, which is from PLC, SCADA to MES. And then you have your enterprise systems like ERP, databases, cloud, several other subsystems around CRM and MDM, etc. And these systems today, both these systems, while for a very long time have been kind of islanded in that sense, but the new digital, top, which you see, in red, has actually kind of brought them together. So from, the new technologies around data analytics, 3D printing, AR, VR, or even now blockchain, has really, brought all of this together. And as a result, it's no longer, disparate set of systems, but really a symphony being played from enterprise IT perspective. And I'll give you examples of how companies have leveraged. For example, when we talk about AR, VR, the whole selling process of a product from going from physical to virtual has been possible because of augmented and virtual reality showrooms, which have made it possible for customers to really get a look and feel of the product. You saw retail companies, you saw, retail, and I said, companies manufacturing retail and consumer goods were able to quickly adapt to that. Cars were sold from virtual showrooms. The digital twin, for example, where companies have not only created models around the products or machines, but also processes to see how does these processes play, especially when we are looking at very challenging external environments. So there are several examples of such things happening. And in this entire process, cloud infrastructure has played a backbone. Cloud infrastructure has been instrumental in getting this connectivity together. And you have seen now these several subsystems now talking to each other seamlessly through this cloud as a backbone behind. So I mean, there are enough examples and we can cover them in the subsequent slides, but can we move ahead, because I want to bring out a very specific element of a manufacturing plant, which we call as factory of the future. So here, if you see, from the left side, from suppliers to customers, the various business process, the entire value chain from product design, engineering, manufacturing, sales, after sales. Today, cloud plays a entire, kind of a integrator role in every aspect. So including manufacturing. For example, I'll give you just about a year back, for one of our automotive customers in Europe, we did a project or an initiative around what we call as robotic weld analytics, where you can really check if the robots which weld the automotive body together, what has been the quality record of them, or track record, how many welds were correct or how many were faulty. And this was all done through AI engine sitting on top of these connected robots. What did they do in the process? Well, this could have been termed as a standalone initiative, but it was actually driving the entire production schedule, because one faulty car or a set of welds in a car can upset the entire assembly line. It has to be taken out, checked, not a lot of hours go in rework. So your jobs per hour or jobs per day, schedules can get upset. So can we improve this? So these initiatives today are not just standalone from proving a technology, but really how my entire production systems are today synchronized with each of these initiatives. So this is where, and there are numerous examples, be it in terms of aftermarket, warranty, or for that matter, even customer complaints. How does the data flow directly from a customer reporting a complaint into somebody at the product design end trying to check whether it is going to be, is it one-off complaint, or is it possibly going to go into many more? So, I mean, I'm just giving you an overview, but as I said, there are several examples in each of them where these initiatives have really helped, and everything gets finally integrated at the ERP, because that's a single system from a manufacturing perspective. Next slide, please. So these are, I mean, I'm just kind of summarizing because I'm aware of the time. These are the 6 levers which, from a transformation perspective, from digital R&D, supply chain, production, customer experience. And we already talked about cloud. I'm going to introduce one more element, which is connecting all this together. And in fact, it's no longer now just cloud as an element, but I'm going to introduce one more element, which is called as network, because today network is becoming key into the adoption of many these initiatives and systems. We talked about this digital automation pyramid, but many of these initiatives would not happen if you have a network which is not resilient and strong enough to manage that. And in this case, what I'm seeing is, in the years to come, 5G and cloud will go hand in hand in driving this manufacturing transformation. We already have seen 5G come up from a telco perspective, but 5G from an enterprise perspective is far more attractive and far more, I would say, relevant to really bring about this transformation. I am already, companies have started kind of doing some pilots and proof of concepts. I am involved in one such case where in one of the a very large customer in a process industry, where they are looking at, can I get rid of my signal cables? There are thousands of kilometers of signal cables in any plant. So can I get rid of signal cables by leveraging 5G within the plant premises? These are like, transformational concepts, but being looked at, because today there is a network system which can really manage latency, reliability, and fast transmission of data. So as I said, this is what would probably be the entire value chain of any digital manufacturing initiative connected with 5G and cloud. Moving on, so I'll just close my talk with just a final slide. Finally, it's all about data. I mean, this entire digital transformation, when you create so much of data, what do we do with it? traditionally we have been, looking at, hindsight in terms of, oh, an event happened, an incident happened, what do I learn from it? So you are analyzing past data to know what happened. We have moved towards what we call as predictive analytics, from descriptive analytics to predictive analytics, to predict what will happen based on the past hindsights, based on the trends which I see. Can I predict what will happen and when will it happen? So we are probably at this stage, different degrees of adoption, but probably we are at that stage. But can we move now to the what we call as the final frontier of analytics, which is called as prescriptive analytics? That means I know what will happen, I know when will it happen, but what do I make out of it? What is the opportunity? Knowing that this is going to happen, what is the opportunity I can use or leverage, or what is the risk which I see, which I can mitigate through my business decisions? So prescriptive analytics is where probably this entire transformation journey will move. And not that it is, I have seen it happens very, in a very large scale, but this is where probably most of the trends and the systems are moving. So maybe a year or two from now, we might see some more relevant use cases of such prescriptive analytics coming in place. So I'm going to stop here, Manish, and hand it over to you. And happy to take on any questions as per your schedule.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you for talking about business need and challenges, and also laying a roadmap for digital transformation for manufacturing organizations. Also pinpointing some of the emerging technologies, particularly 5G, which becomes very essential for improving the adoption of cloud. So with that, let me quickly move to next speaker, Surya Mohan Surampudi. Surya Mohan Surampudi heads digital and process excellence with the Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. He's an accomplished digital champion. Surya has been on both sides of the table. Initially, he worked more as an advisor and subject matter expert for life sciences industry, and today he manages digital transformation for one of the renowned organization. So over to you, Surya.
Okay, thank you, Manish. And you can go to the next slide. And thanks, Alok, for setting up context for this discussion. And what you made available to the audience now is that what is available at hand today for this journey of digital transformation, which is also compelling us to move towards cloud ERP. In my understanding, there is a lot of change that is happening, which I term it as changing facets of enterprise resource planning, which is basically changing from integration of transactions for better planning to actionable information to self-optimizing systems. That means the ERP is changing from a planning tool to a self-optimizing enabler for the digital transformation. So this is where it becomes a very compelling factor to consider how we move towards cloud ERP areas. Next slide, please. So despite of so much of buzz in the market with respect to emerging technologies and a lot of digital transformations, what has not changed also we should be able to understand clearly. That is what actually the business need. In another form, it is a repetition of some of those things what Alok has mentioned. Demand-driven supply chain is the key for success for any company to effectively manage their working capital and ensure that they deliver to the need rather than made to stock and then push into the market. For that, they need to have a very good available to promise information. It will come from the work in process at the plant level, where we need to have a good visibility of the manufacturing process and how that, where our existing batches or the manufacturing pieces are lying and whether I can really promise to customer when there is a demand. To have this work in process knowledge and also to meet the need of demand-driven supply chain, one must be having a very good operational excellence built in, which reduces the cost and produces more with less. That is where they need to really have a good visibility on those areas. Quality is one of the major roadblock for releasing the products to the market. Why we call it as a roadblock? Because we want to ensure a quality. It is an essential part of releasing a quality product to the market. At the same time, the number of samples that we have to really test, and till such time the batch cannot be released into the market, that means agility of releasing the batches into the market is coming down. How this part also can be addressed by some of the digital transformation initiatives that can be solving this problem. But these are all things which have not changed much there. So the companies are looking for a quality by design. That means the quality is built into the process and the process is going to deliver the quality products, and hence we can remove the quality aspects of controlling rather than simply assure, right? So that is what is not changed much. What is changed today compared to a couple of decades is that there is a deeper understanding of resource planning. The resource planning when ERP was initially implemented was just limited to material at the most, and maybe a little bit of production activities. But beyond that, ERP was not fully utilized by people because of the scalability and other challenges that they are having, and their focus is more around business transactions. But today the understanding is much more higher, and people know that every resource part of ERP, men, machine, products, and your materials which are there at the shop floor, and all the kinds of resources to be planned well in advance so that you can deliver with operational excellence. There is also increased deeper understanding of process also emerged. In a chemical industry, typically the process is a highly variable in nature based on the specifications of raw material, based on the process itself, how we maintain the process qualities and process parameters. So it is going to change a lot. But the data that has been built in over a period of time, as well as the experience that people gain in the process, gave a lot of scope for improvement in understanding of the process, so they can create a definitive process boundaries to deliver faster. The one other deeper understanding came in terms of how do I get there? Okay, so when ERP launched itself, it went through a lot of failures, and people understood the tricks of how to make a ERP successful, what kind of change management we have to put in place to make it successful. That now they are able to understand how to get there with a digital transformation integrated with your ERP so that they can get better business outcomes. While all this is happening with the increased demand in the market for the products, with a lot of technology pieces coming into the picture, every technology piece is prone for errors, issues, and other roadblocks. That is something that which manufacturing team cannot tolerate. So there is a zero tolerance for downtime. If I have to upgrade a software for some patch upgradation or some kind of new functionality, if I go and ask them for a downtime, that is no. So there is a zero tolerance for downtime. That means your solution should be able to cater to the need of seamless upgradations or seamless issue resolutions without going for any downtime. All this is possible with the enabler technologies, what you see at the right side, Enabler 4.0. I don't want to repeat those things which Alok has already mentioned, various technologies, same things have been mentioned here, but I would like to bucketize them into two areas. One is self-optimizing technologies, other one is digital workflows technologies, which is going to improvise it is going to enable the digital transformation with more ease. Next one, please. So it is very interesting for anyone to understand that, okay, we know the technologies, we know existing systems, how to really get there. There are various means and ways that the industry is talking about, and consultants will come and tell you that you have to do this, that. that framework of getting there is something that is becoming a more and more a requirement to have a deeper understanding by manufacturing industry. So today I would like to introduce, if in a biopharmaceutical industry, this has been framed as a digital plant maturity model. This is going to give you a roadmap how to really get there, what is the benefit coming out of that. And similarly, there is something called as a ballroom concept, which is leading to an adaptive plant, a level 5 of digital plant maturity model, which I will discuss more detail in the next slide. But to make this digital plant maturity model, these are the three buckets what you see here as a key enablers: the backbone, the brain, and the senses. The senses part is what Alok has detailedly covered in terms of technologies that can really enable operational excellence and quality by design and delivery excellence. Whatever technologies we called as self-optimizing technologies and digital workflows, that is going to help at senses area. Now, having these senses giving the data to you, we should be having single version of truth, which should be coming into a data lake, which is going to give you more in terms of outcome metrics. If I do something like this, the simulated environment as well as predictive and prescriptive environment is what is going to come from this digital data lakes, where we need to have more connect, collect, analyze, and act kind of. This is going to really create a backbone for you to create that kind of environment to take informed decisions and self-optimizing the systems automatically without unsupervised situations. But having these pieces, right, two pieces is not sufficient there. We need to have an ERP, which is having all the resources built into as master data, as well as your transactions happening around those master data is going to really help you to orchestrate the clear planning to self-optimizing methods. For achieving this one, a normal ERP at enterprise level may suffer at times. It is not that every time it is failed, but when we want to do high-level analytics, we want to see, analyze more data, then the data coming back to ERP for giving suggestions with artificial intelligence to users and see what actions they have to take, whether it is a price variations while procurement, whether it is production planning variations based on the work in process. All this kind of information should be enabling. For that, we need to have a ERP that is accessible and with fully connectivity, because every company is going for a lot of acquisitions and integrations, as well as they are divesting into some companies where you need to disintegrate your ERP for that company, right? So integrations and disintegration should be having a very good scalability and reducing the power of ERP that you are giving to a plant which you are going to divest. So that means it needs a more scalability in terms of making it is available for computing power as well as processing power for the data, which is going to help you in terms of a demand-driven supply chain, available to promise, and visibility to work in process. Next slide, please. So this is something would be very interesting to understand. What is this digital plant maturity model? There are 5 levels are recommended in this whole process. One is the pre-digital plant, which all of us know that the manual processes that we use to run our operations, which has its own constraints of paper-based data, and you don't have any data at hand to really do something. The next level is digital silos, which is also very well aware to all of you, that we build a few digital systems, sometimes a PLC integrated with a recipe at a vertical level. And there may be few systems that are implemented, like financial accounting system, maybe inventory management, and those kind of digital silos to the second level. You have to go to, most of the industry today is moving towards level 2 to level 3, which is a connected plant. Even at this level, it is not fully a matured model. It is going to be a simple vertical integration. Within manufacturing, they will be achieving integration. Within quality, you will be achieving integration. Within business transactions, you are integrating, but you are not able to get all these integrated together to make it as a connected plant, where the data should come from devices. So this is where the industry is now solving various problems, and some of the challenges we will discuss in the next slide, and which is going to help you. Where else can it happen? If I have the data, the connected plant will be able to help you with in terms of where else can it happen if something goes wrong here. So those kind of things it is going to help. Now, similarly, like what Alok has mentioned, from moving from typical MIS to predictive analytics kind of situation is where the level 4 is talking about a predictive plant. So the integration now moving away from vertical integration to horizontal integration across multiple systems. Your entire product lifecycle management is integrated with various systems so that you have full visibility of end-to-end supply chain, which suppliers supply to customer. Again, which Alok has mentioned in the digital plant, future of the plant. You need to have the visibility and integration of your right and left side, supplier and customer, and their supplier and customer also. When you are able to get that level of integration, you will be able to give more predictability to the production and profitability to your company. So now the focus of today's discussion will be more around adaptive plant. I was talking to you about a ballroom concept, right, in the previous slide. This is something like in a dancing floor when partners change each other and create a beautiful environment of a dancing floor with such an adaptability of moving around and connecting with people, right? So this is something is a concept which we call it as adaptive plant, where we require, apart from end-to-end value chain integration, we also should create a modular, mobile, and collaborative manufacturing environment, which means your equipment are not tied with one shop floor. Wherever you need that equipment, you should be able to move from one shop floor to other shop floor and continue your work. So that is the kind of plug and play environment that what we need to ensure. So if one equipment is failed, you are not going for a downtime. If one IoT system is down, you don't have to stop your operation. You can quickly shift from one production block to other production block by moving equipment and orchestrating the handshake between those equipments, which is going to help you with zero downtime. And hence you will have a continuous process of manufacturing. You always will have real-time information because you are connected with your ERP system, and the edge computing level, at operation level, your systems are collecting the data, and that data is available for the operations team at the shop floor to take necessary decisions and self-optimize the systems which are there. A typical example of a self-optimization is, let's say, machine settings. You need to ensure a best way of combination of RPM of a machine, or a temperature of a machine, or a drying factor of a machine. These things are typically used to be part of human capability, and that individual used to have that kind of knowledge and experience, which is a people dependent thing. But with the advent of ML, this is going to translate into a self-optimizing system based on historical data, which batch yield was much higher when what kind of setup machine settings work well. So that will automatically go into unsupervised method of getting into the machine and ensure that it is self-optimized itself and human dependency is eliminated there. So they're all the equipment, all the systems will become more self-aware, and they will adapt to the nature of how it is going to deliver. So this is finally going to give you an advanced analytics, which is going to help you simulate and take actions and even optimize the systems. So where you can really trust the information. It is not that every system is given different information. You have to collate them and then you derive your understanding. Here it is going to give you a fully trusted information. Next slide, please. So how this transformation journey towards digital operations and adaptive way of working things, though every plant has not reached to that level of 4 and 5, I would say till industry is struggling at 3. With various challenges that are mentioned in the below of this slide, our OEMs are not ready. We have legacy systems. We don't have scalable systems. The data acquisition is not so easy. With those kind of things, industry is struggling to be at level 3, and they have to move to level 4 and level 5. to fully get the maturity that is expected there. Now, I would like to share some of the industry experiences, how our peers and other industries are using certain use cases to get slowly transform into that level 4. This is what I create is a 5-point factor using which we focus our digital transformation areas. One is the digital operations, the operations management at the manufacturing. The next one is a quality process which is consistent all the time so that you deliver right quality of product all the time, which is quality by design. And then the quality assurance, instead of becoming a quality, it is like instead of human being looking at and controlling that, how we can really make it automated. And then equipment health is a very well known to everyone, that very all emerging technologies today, whether it is ML, IoT, everything talks about predictive maintenance, right? So this area is well known to all the people. And next one is people capability. If these 5 areas we address with various use cases and keep maturing our thing, you will be reaching that industry 4.0 or pharma 4.0 or whatever levels of digital maturity that we want to achieve, will be reaching that very easily. Now, the first one, certain use cases that we have observed and we have seen in the industry, the real-time plant visibility. Of course, IoT plays a very clear role here, along with the systems which are connected with the SCADA systems to collect the data from the equipment. We need to ensure that all the data flows into L2, where your L2 integration plays a very critical role collecting those data with, of course, ISA standards that we should be following that to achieve that one. The next one is the digital observations. People, when they walk into the shop floors and see anomalies of operations, it should be captured and come back with a CAPA, corrective action and preventive action, to mitigate that. And if it is a large company, the same CAPA has to be applied across various plants and operation areas, which is difficult in a human environment of collecting the data and percolating that information to other people. This kind of thing may happen, this kind of wrong may happen, you need to do this way. So mobile-based applications which will capture the observation at the shop floor level to see which all areas, the way the mobile device use case is created with the sections and the groups in which observations are to be captured, and what are the observations, typical list of observations should be available in the mobile itself, that supervisor or a senior management, when they are working in, they will capture this information, which will of course feed into the data lake. The machine, the guided machine setup I just mentioned before slide about machine setting. This is one use case which is really helping to optimize and reduce the human dependency on some of those knowledge areas. And coming to quality area, that what of many times our product process, how we manufacture, should be robust enough that we deliver a consistent quality, and the process should be always repeatable and with a consistency. So digital twin plays a major role here by simulating the environment of process parameters, ambient parameters, and using that parameters, a CAPA simulator will give back the information with the historical data, that if these kind of parameters are coming now from this particular process, in the past there was a failure, the right first time batch is failed. If these kind of parameters are there, yield improvement can be done better. So those kind of simulations come from this digital twin. And when we are going to integrate with the digital thread, then we'll be able to really self-optimize the systems, even without human intervention, to look at the CAPA and then go and take an action there. The next one is about the process boundaries. The parameters of manufacturing, whether it is process parameters, critical quality parameters, we have to create a boundary in which we should be able to operate with a golden batch. So that golden batch is going to help you with the right first time, with less cost, you will be able to deliver faster to the market without less of quality challenges in between. So the process analytics technologies which are linked with the equipment at the processing operations level itself is going to help the users to focus more on other activities than focusing on whether process parameter, whether my temperature is going up or my pressure is going down, I have to go adjust the valves. All these things can be optimized, and automatically these systems will take care, which of course certain analytics, advanced analytics of process parameters and quality parameters can produce good yield improvement ideas for the manufacturing team to apply on. This yield improvement is not so simple that we apply same thing. It depends on product and different types of material and the material specifications, which raw materials come from outside from the suppliers, various factors to be taken care in consideration to really give this kind of analytics. In this process, the quality control team reviews a lot of data, and that data reviews takes a lot of time. Now, that many of these checklists as part of data review mechanism don't have to be having expertise. They are very routine in nature. If color has to be so and so, and color has to be so and so. So we can implement a bot which is going to take care of 95% of data review mechanisms that are required by a human being, who will in turn make a mistake and leading to a quality problem. But bot can work 24/7 all shifts and ensure that data reviews are happening much faster than the way human beings are doing today. And during this testing process and product development process, we need to create a lot of solution preparations and do the specifications and do the analysis according to the specifications and meet the range of acceptable limits, right? So this AR assisted glasses will help the analyst in the laboratory to really look at step by process how you need to do the analysis without any deviation to the process and SOP that has been defined. So this AR assistant is fully configured with the SOPs at every level of quality control. That is going to help them a consistent process of quality control. I will not spend much time on equipment health area because all of you are very familiar with these use cases, but one especially to the pharma industry, HPLC, high pressure liquid chromatography systems will have columns, and those columns are very, very costly and a consumable kind of material. So if you don't use them properly, you will incur cost. If you don't properly clean them, or if you don't really predict that when this column is going to fail, your batch will go in for toss. So it is a big challenge for the people with a normal manual way of looking at things. It is not there manually at all. We were able to implement IoT-based information collection from these systems and able to give the predictive simulations for the people. And the last one of this use case is AR-guided remote maintenance. Of course, again, it's a well-known use case. All experts need not be there at every plant. So we are centralized experts at one place, and there will be a junior level people who are doing the maintenance activities at the ground. So they will just go to the equipment, follow the instruction given by the Center of Excellence team to maintain certain equipment or ensure the breakdown, how they manage. So here we are applying certain augmented reality based solutions. And final and last but not the least, unless we have our people are capable enough to adopt digital transformation and able to contribute back to digital transformation initiatives, it will not be successful. So hence we created a learning experience platform where role-based, usage-based, AI-based suggestions will go to the plant what they have to learn to work well. So the capability content is available to them automatically without searching for it. If my role is an analyst and I have to do this sampling analysis in this particular way, and AI will automatically pick the content available in the electronic library of the books and suggest those things to the user, and he will go through that and complete that. So that is the kind of personalized learning experience platform that LMS, the next version of LMS is LXP, where people capability enhancement is much seamless there. We are also teaching people on data science, because we may find that lower level people, what they will understand about data science, at least they should understand the data. And if they know the awareness of this data science, they'll be able to really contribute back to the IT teams and the manufacturing teams how well we can use the data. So we are building that as well. And we have set up a virtual reality lab. Before even hitting the shop floor, every fresher will go through this virtual reality lab. They will familiarize themselves with the shop floor activities. If it is hazardous kind of actions where they are going in, they will get those hazardous simulations here. So making mistakes on the shop floor will be minimized, and they'll be able to do the job from the day one. So the time they spend at virtual reality lab is going to result into a direct operations capability in them. And of course, we also have put in certain kind of augmented reality based for critical operations, let's say product changeover from one product to other product. If you have to change, there are a lot of things to be taken care, and augmented reality is going to help them what step they have to do at each product change, because contamination has to be eliminated and they should follow every single step. And what is the best optimized method of this product changeover that they have to happen. So those are the kind of use cases which are emerging, and there are many use cases which probably will not be able to cover many of these things in 1 hour session. But definitely industry started realizing such kind of use cases is going to transform the way operations are happening there. For all this data to be integrated, we need to have a scalable ERP to help with information synthesizing. So with that, I would like to stop here, Manish, and
Thank you, Surya. This was a very interesting presentation. Several new concepts that we have learned today, specifically, the digital maturity model. It looks very interesting. It gives a very interesting perspective to whole, digital transformation that many of the organizations are planning and going through. Also, you covered about ballroom concept to equate with agile plant. Some of the use cases that you talked about, specifically, guided machine setup, or using AR guided maintenance, or bot enabled data reviews. So they have been a very interesting concepts and use cases that you presented. Thank you very much. I'll open up for Q&A now. I already have some of the questions. So I will start, some of the questions have also been submitted to us at the time of registration of the webinar. So I'll take up some of those questions first, and then some of the questions that people are asking already, I'll take up one by one. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please, you can post it under using, Q&A tab within your, your link. So Surya and Alok, the first question is, this is from Siddharth. Says that the plant data is very difficult to directly store in the cloud due to two reasons: sheer volume and also due to latency issues that we face today. What would be ideal architecture for manufacturing 4.0?
So I would take that, Alok.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So just because cloud architecture or cloud technology is available, we don't have to force fit everything to cloud. Where we need to look at cloud is scalability and additional computing power as and when it is required. Whereas the one question what you are asking about plant level information, that is where there are two aspects of this data. One is real-time data, other one is historical data. You may use cloud architecture for storing your historical data for as and when you want to learn, make your system self-optimize based on the historical data you draw from the cloud, and then you will work on creating algorithms to self-optimize the systems. The other aspect of real-time data is concerned, there is no other way than to go for edge computing, as well as creating your own data lake where all the information is stored there, useful for then and there operations for them. Hence, not to force fit anything, but you need to balance between edge computing and cloud computing to match your artificial intelligence based suggestions back to the users and operators.
Sure.
So I may just want to add to what Surya said. See, it is not about the plant data, the OT data is extremely voluminous, and the velocity of the data is also very high in terms of transactions and speed at which some of these sensors and the equipment data gets in. One needs to analyze as to why am I doing what I want to do, or what am I doing in that sense. So for example, do I need to really look at every machine parameter data stored on the cloud right now? Maybe not necessary. But if I have multiple plants, and somebody at my head office wants to know certain production parameters across all the plants, then it is necessary that some of this should then go into the cloud. So depending on what your analytics or depending on what your requirement is, I think certain parameters of this OT data should go on the cloud if that be the case, to have a live view, for example, but not every transaction at this stage. And as I said, today networks don't support that latency. When 5G comes, probably there will be much more difference to this view. But at this point of time, I agree that every aspect of plant data need not be stored on the cloud.
Yeah, so just another small addition to that. Honeywell has come up with a solution for predictive maintenance of plant OT equipment, right? So they put everything onto the cloud. Mm-hmm. And all the algorithms and the predictiveness of that maintenance activity is built into the cloud. So there is a constant sync up of OT data into the Honeywell cloud, and from where they will be doing this entire predictive maintenance algorithms run and come back with the suggestions back to the manufacturing unit. So there are some cases that is also happening in this way.
Sure. So the next question, is from Devashri Oja. It says, will ERP companies continue to push their own clouds like HANA Enterprise Cloud or Oracle Cloud, or it move to hyperscalers like Azure and AWS?
So let me take a first view at this, and Surya, you can add. See, there is no single answer. See, if I am a SAP product manufacturer, I have to maximize my revenue. So I'll probably come up with my own version of a cloud, HANA or Oracle Cloud or every other cloud. But today, if we see, SAP is equally very strong on Azure or AWS. I mean, enough interfaces are there. So what is my cloud strategy? I need to decide. For example, if I have my rest of my systems on, say, a CRM system or a Salesforce or any other systems which are there on cloud, and if I have chosen Azure or AWS as my long-term, cloud strategy, partner for cloud strategy, getting SAP on Azure is probably a logical option. So, but as I said, there is no one single solution or a magic pill in that sense. Companies are working with multi-cloud environments as well. So it's up to each one in terms of the cost and the benefit, is my view.
Absolutely. So, yeah, cost benefit analysis is a major parameter to decide where do we go.
Sure. Another question, are there cloud solutions that have potential to disrupt existing ERP leaders? Is there any cloud solution that have potential to disrupt existing ERP leaders?
So there are several ERPs which are, which are cloud native itself. For example, IFS is one dominant player in the European context where it is natively on a cloud, the newer version. So, and there are many. There are small ERPs for smaller. Several function-based ERPs are there. There are no huge monoliths, but Salesforce is one example of completely driven on cloud, and they are kind of started with one, but they are expanding into multi-thing. In fact, they have several partners which have built industry-specific layers on the Salesforce platform. Pharma being one of the key players or key vertical, where a lot of third-party players have built products around Salesforce for their industry specific needs. So there is a huge list of companies and startups which have invested in this.
Sure. So one more question. This is from Srinivas. So what would be your advice to companies that plan to implement predictive maintenance? Where should we start? Where would be low-lying fruits? So basically, he wants to know, if plant maintenance is a topic, what could be the starting point? What could be low-lying fruits? That we can look at, while taking up that initiative.
Surya?
So, yeah. So I think unknowingly I already stated about Honeywell solution. So it is not like promoting any specific vendor or anything here, but since I have seen such kind of experience within ourselves itself, any kind of predictiveness of solutions are very knowledge centric solutions, right? And we need to have right set of people. Data engineers and data scientists should be available to design our own solutions in the area of predictiveness, whether it is a plant or whether it is an operations area or any other area. If a company would like to think first time to really taste this predictiveness in the plant maintenance area, the advice is better to go for the OEMs. And if those OEMs already have this kind of predictive maintenance modules with them, either at an enterprise level or at a cloud level, working with them to devise the necessary requirements as per your company requirements and getting it done will be much easier rather than developing your own solution for that area.
Sure. In fact, other thing, as the people say that, typically, like rotary equipments, with, which are there in large numbers like pumps or compressors. Those could be, first set of equipments, where probably, plant predictive maintenance can be tried out.
Correct.
I have one more question. This relates to security concerns. So it says that many organizations have security concerns of moving their data to public cloud. In your opinion, does it really pose a greater security risk of moving to the cloud?
So, I mean, security is definitely an issue one needs to address. But security is not just from a cloud perspective, but from your overall enterprise policy of how security you are managing. I can tell you the public clouds, which are there, like an Azure or a AWS or any other players. I mean, they have very robust security norms and policies, as long as you adhere to it. So the chain is probably weakest at, within the enterprise as opposed to outside the enterprise. So how do you follow your overall security policy? How do you allow access? How do you manage different systems of security? Will they probably decide? And there are private clouds, if security is of, there are other restrictions on which sometimes the data cannot be put on public cloud, not necessarily from a security, but more from governance and compliance and statutory regulations perspective. But those are different in this context. But I think security has to be kept into mind, but following these principles across the enterprise is more important than just looking at it from a cloud perspective, in my view.
Very well said, Alok. And other point is that also, last mile is the most, as people say, is the most vulnerable area, right? To focus on, for security. So other question, and probably this could, sorry.
I will add one point here. So security concerns are actually forcing companies to think about cloud first. Earlier, the companies, especially pharma companies, they never used to believe in cloud hosting because they believe that their data is very sensitive and a lot of confidentiality associated to formulas and various development parameters, etc. But now industry is looking at various cyber security attacks that happened in the past last few months across various pharmaceutical industry. More than sensitivity of data, people are now looking at a business continuity angle. If I have my own enterprise system, ERP, and then there is a cyber attack, to recover back into the action is a very, very difficult for me to handle. And if I go for a cloud, the expertise that is available with cloud partners is much higher to restore back the systems rather than we fighting to see how do I restore my data is lost. I send hard disk to recover the data, then I will try to build the databases, try to build the systems, which is very, very difficult to restore back from the cyber attacks, right? So the security concerns definitely making people think cloud first strategy, and pharma industry is no more different, and they're also thinking very seriously to go there.
Very well said. In fact, Surya, other thing is that, also is that cloud vendors are much more better geared up to handle even some of those threats, right?
Yes.
The
One
kind
is
of investment they are making on building those technologies.
Correct.
They are much more better geared up.
Correct. They are geared up for preventive actions as well. If something happens also, despite of that,
right,
ability to recover is
right,
much more stronger there.
Right, right. And probably this will be the last question because we are already running out of time. This question is from Kumar Iyer. So he says that in terms of maturity, how matured is the industry in terms of cloud adoption? That is first question. Second thing is, any specific use cases in welding area? Probably, Alok, you can answer that first.
Sure. So, see, cloud adoption is a journey right now. It has been ongoing. So there are companies started it, even not only larger companies, but even MSMEs and smaller enterprises have taken up this journey. So this is definitely underway. I don't think we can say it is over. But yes, companies are in different stages of maturity. So it's an ongoing process as of now, as I see. Coming to the second part on welding. So as I said, there are multiple use cases on welding, especially using IoT. So I gave an example of this, welding analytics example, which we did in one of our customers in Europe. There are these weld shops of robotic weld shops, which are, almost in a minute, they put almost 2,000 to 3,000 welds on a car body. And then you need to check as to whether the welds were correct. So there is an AI algorithm built using the temperature and the position of the robo, as well as with the, the current and other parameters. And based on that, you can create a self-learning model on if the weld was right or not, and keeps on improving. So in a period of 6 months, we were able to reach almost 98% prediction accuracy that the weld was right. And there are many such things. I mean, I'm just giving you one in the automotive industry, but there are weld and testing systems which get integrated, especially in high, large volume manufacturing, like big boilers and big equipments. So there are numerous weld use cases, Manish.
Yeah, I would like to add in terms of cloud ERP perspective, Manish. Maturity of cloud ERP is more faster now than before. Earlier, why ERP was more refined to enterprise level is that the customization level that company is looking at, and hence they could not depend on cloud solutions, and a harmonized solution they were not looking at. But today, harmonization and simplification has become a norm of every industry because they want to reduce the complexity of operations. Secondly, if at all a cloud partner solution is very matured enough to handle different kind of scenarios, definitely they are looking towards that. Second point is that a lot of acquisition and divestments are happening in a plant networks or a company networks area. Mm-hmm. It is very difficult for an enterprise level ERP to quickly scale up to another acquired plant or suddenly to reduce or disconnect from the existing company or existing plant with you and suddenly you divest and you have to separate their entire ERP transactions and you do that. These two things are actually making very difficult for them to handle. It is a huge effort to really build that kind of scalability and reducing the scale. So here, cloud solution is very simple, right? You simply plug and play. As and when a new business comes, you just onboard them. The only master data part of it is the most critical part, which takes time. So if we are going to eliminate enterprise level scaling up and scaling down of ERP systems through this cloudification, the only thing that company has to handle is the master data. So with that, I think definitely cloud ERP is maturing, as well as adaptability increased, and cloud first strategy is coming from every company.
Thank you, Surya. So I think with this, we will end our webinar here. I would like to thank both Alok and Surya a lot for spending time together with all of us, to share their perspective on manufacturing 4.0 and how ERP can play a very critical role in realizing many of the use cases within manufacturing 4.0. Participants, you can reach out to Alok or Surya at their respective emails or Twitter or LinkedIn accounts through their respective messengers if you have any further questions, or you can write to me, and we will try to answer those questions, or get it from Alok or Surya. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alok.